What up, Schmoedown rockers? Yes. Been wanting to tell you, can we really be stopped? Aside from the one time with Molly Damon, but that was just Laura Kelly. I mean, that's it. Although I'm a little leery of Flickinger, and, you know, we're never going to get anything out of Jericho. I like to think we could. I might try to figure out something in the dungeon page to milk that. But anyways, that's not the point. The point being, this is also me finally getting to talk about the Battlefield match. Finally. Plus, there was no pay-per-view anyway, and they were mostly focusing on talking about those, but usually they wind up deciding to save it on the weekends instead, so people have something to talk about then, even though by that point, nobody who has seen the pay-per-view, and everybody's already been spoiled by that point, so nobody really gives as much of a shit. Sorry, it was a mouthful. That's why I sighed. But anyways. Also, I was told something about that, and I'm fixing that. Now. But anyways. I definitely, as with the exception of Rocco winning, Portalish and Miller. It made me wonder and question if my birthday buddy was good for you compared to what you had with Swag. Yeah. Now, the whole thing with you and Ethan being a team, on the other hand, that I'm okay with. Though things probably would have turned out better for them had they actually went with Time Machine instead. Because they wind up with questions that Janine would have been able to answer instead of. And it sucks because Guy needed a chance to prove, but he didn't have the magic in him to be able to keep up with everybody. And right now he's good for story purposes, and he's doing well this season in that regard. Make no mistake, he's still, though it seems maybe Gucci's going to trail the Oscar for that if he don't wind up getting Manager of the Year, which will probably not happen because anyone of my dungeon heads who watch this know who the Manager of the Year is going to be by the end of the season, and hopefully we have a better luck in the tournaments than last year, because that was a crutch. It shouldn't have been, at least not an IG. At least not an IG. And hopefully it will not be again this year. But once again, we have Adam Witt is the only Star Wars player we've got. Then again, I'm not entirely sure either. I think we have more Star Wars players going on this time. But, given the announcements that have already happened between that and the teams, and speaking of that, we will get to that as well, because we finally got to see a team's match. And also another Intergata match, and a rookie singles match between Peggy, Gubbins, and let me see, and the Boston Badass, Paige Frabetti. Luckily, I don't have as many. I kind of, especially with the way the promo went about, which this was probably one of the better ones, where these two ladies get the Schmoedown, and if somehow, some reason, if something happens and fate intervenes in such a way that these two players in the future somehow become like a super team of some sort that could rival the Shire Wolves, I'm going to lose my shit and I say I called it. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. It just dawned on me for it to happen. I initially wasn't even thinking about it until I was just making this video now. Facto. And so just put that in the history books on that. Holy moly. So if that happens, be prepared to get your ass kicked by two ladies who know how to apparently kick ass. Especially since, I'm just going off of them, seeing what they've done in rookies, even though it's more so kind of what we got I mean, it was a damn good match, regardless, for what it was. I don't know if I can say it's match of the year, but there's something in there that where the two of them already show enough potential that that things are going to go better for them. And I think for Frabetti and Gubbins will. I wouldn't mind because they're both tough ladies. I don't know if they have the same issues or not of or at least categories and strengths and whatnot. So or at least I'm not. I've seen the match. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. This is their first match, so I don't know enough. I guess like everybody else. Unless I've seen an interview, which I feel, I mean, I kind of have seen one, but that was kind of went off the rails, and might as well have made up for the lack thereof of a late night Gucci Kaiser. But anyways, which was fine, which was fine that day because I didn't have to work on Good Friday. I looked out, well, on that I guess. But anyways. But one thing I forgot to mention, the Bateman versus Riley. I kind of knew Bateman was going to have it no matter what. But I felt bad for Riley because, I know he also has something to prove. But I heard some things that Riley's Patreon's kind of a mess. I'm not going to say who said it. I will never say it, but I guess that makes sense as to why things haven't gone over as well for him, too. But as it has been with Bateman's, because it's been pretty organized, and heck, I guess Riley does get some people that are involved in the den involved over there, which would be nice. And the den's fine, and I'm kind of glad for him being in the den. But yeah. I was not expecting him to be Bateman. Especially not after what happened and even more so after what happened in that number one contendership between Merle and Snyder. And that was more so that it was already done because of Snyder in that versus match. Now, unless they have a plan to make the versus match be Roca versus Bateman, which would be a lot sooner than expected. Which I'm not sure. I don't know if they mentioned what that match will be, but for the versus, but because it's usually just one match, so which is fine in that regard, as opposed to the Battlefield and Throwdown being the two-match stuff. And I was very happy, even though despite the fact that I know there was a big joke about the fact that he couldn't get the Teen Wolf 2 thing himself, which was the only big stump in that round one. And for those who did get to see it on pay-per-view form, you already know, and didn't get to see the edited version this past Sunday, you already know what happens. Y'all already know what happened. How things went about, and it was a little awkward, but we were able to accept it because with that pay-per-view on how that happened the way it did. Because a lot of people, I'm trying to remember when it came to when the whole, which still understandable. I was glad he did it. That he addressed how things were, and he kind of also inadvertently also told the people that were being hateful in the comment section just to buzz off a little bit. Especially those that were kind of bitching about what happened the last pay-per-view involving finding out about the pre-tapes thing. And this one showed that it technically wasn't. And we got to see how raw it was. And understand, and I felt bad that Riley had to go through that. Because Ben didn't get his question, but he did. Which, and if he didn't, then he wouldn't even get his 5, then this would have been awkwardish. Gladly he did get his 3. So to allow, because apparently it was on Harloff that he screwed up, and he admitted to it, and, it was fine. I mean, and plus it was nice given it was a good counteraction to saying, this is what happens if we do it live. You get to see this raw shit. So, and I appreciate that he kind of decided to do that just to kind of, and I think they later wound up editing it. I didn't get to see the later edited versions that would wind up being the two separated matches this past weekend, or the Saturday re-editing of the actual match that had happened on Friday. So but luckily you guys got to see a more proper looking match as opposed to the Raw thing. But now you understand a more BTS thing, and it made us as patrons in a way feel more understanding, like we're in on it. You know what I mean? That's what I think helped. So in that regard, even though it did kind of make things seem a little awkward for Riley and make us feel worse for Riley in his situation, and even for Bateman having to go through that too. But most people who might have seen the edits that didn't want to get spoiled aren't going to know what they're talking about, because that's already all been cleaned up. You know, but unless you've heard people talking about it that have seen it the day of, then they will be the only ones that know. But yeah, I enjoyed it, but more so because the Dungeon did win and all that. But my heart goes out to you, Riley. This was kind of the reverse situation of Janine the Machine, of the match he had with Janine the Machine. I'm telling you. But the difference being that because Dungeon's involved, I had stakes, and even more so because I'm a patron, NIS patron, so I had stakes with that too. And speaking of that, at the time of this recording, please check out Ben Bateman's on the NIS channel. Sorry for tonight, and also check out tonight's thing. I don't know when this will be uploaded by the time y'all get to this, so apologies for that. I also want to shout out. God. It was a good... I forgot what I was going to say about that. Forget it. Do lie. Anyway. Now we're going to go to these other matches involving the number one contendership. We will be talking about the Intergeekdom, who will be facing in a number one contendership up against Kalanau. We already see who's going to be the teams. We're already going to find out who's in the number one contendership opening in the Battlefield fighting Kalinowski between Alex Damon and the Barbarian. Most people had Alex Damon, but the Barbarian put up a fight. I was not. Everyone else was. Even people within the fucking Gucci-verse doubted our boy. Doubted our boy not being able to play like he could. And the fact that it went as neck and neck as it did, to where it led to him half an answer, is fine. But I think it was more the fact that he didn't know the three and he wasn't going to risk using, I think, his only JTE on it, and figured he'd have to use it for the 5 anyway, is what I think it really amounted to. But because he knew the 5 automatically because of Jurassic Park, and I guess because Spielberg and Lucasfilm stuff is kind of sometimes interlaps, if more so if you're talking about Indiana Jones mainly. So Jurassic Park was going to come up in some way. And he lucked out this time and proved that he wasn't or at least even more so Barbarian in this case, because they were both semi-finalists, so they had to see who was going to face the finalist, having been Kalinowski, for a number one contendership. So, and as most people thought, is Alex Damon, so we're going to get Alex Damon versus him too. And he knew all of them. He said, well, of course he knew Blue, but he didn't hesitate with the other ones. And that's when, and even Barbarian knew he was screwed the moment he said it. I was like, like, I don't blame him. But, you know, it was a tough thing. I think he might have gotten an opponent. I'm trying to remember how the second round went, but I can't remember, but right off the top of my head, at least. It's been a while. But all I know is the Barbarian did put up enough of a fight, even more so that he needed when he needed to in round 3, because he somehow wound up pretty far behind because of his round 1, somehow. But then the teams match, where we basically get essentially Final Exam versus Shazam 2. Shazam could have almost been in a similar situation that they had with the last match they were in, being the title match. And it seems they've always done well in 3-rounders. I feel bad for Final Exam in this case, because and the winner of this would basically go on to face Odd Couple. And I feel bad more so for Final Exam in this regard, because now they just lost their chance to play again, and they're not going to be in the teams tournament because of this. And Shazam, of course, wasn't going to be either because of their number one contendership. So now their Final Exam's out of the question. I don't even know if they're going to be a team as much anymore, or if we're going to see them again as a team once the tournament is done, if we're going to even see an end with the tournament there. Or if they're even remotely going to plan on trying to do it nearly as long of a singles tournament. I hope not. Ugh. But anyways, the fact we're even getting a teams tournament as early as we have been, and we're still doing it virtually, I guess he's changed his mind, or he's just doing it out of storyline purposes just to make that in case things go wrong, he can put it on Grace. I don't know. And Grace, since she's technically, by storyline purposes, running things. So, Shazam. They had to make up ground a lot. It seems Paul was doing well for the most part, though. Surprisingly, I think Lon was the weak link in this match, for sure. That hurt them the most, especially going forward from the other. I think they wound up with opponent's choice. Final Exam did, I think. And I think Shazam had a better luck of a... Wound up with Horror, I think. With Horror, and Bibbs just went through all of it. And with Brendan just chiming in when he could. So it was mostly Bibbs just running the table throughout most of this. With the exception of, I think, Paul being the only player that wound up going straight up perfect. But wasn't able to get the bonus questions, so it didn't really matter nearly as much as it could have. Or if it even did at this point. Though, unfortunately, they weren't able to hit the 3 when they needed to hit the 3. And unfortunately, it led to basically Sam pulling the win via TKO, which is an unfortunate case for Final Exam. And it kind of hurts his basically Swag's top tier team. And it's looking like Swag's going to the Ray of Dungeon right now. And it sucks even more because they almost had come this close to being faction winning, to having a chance at winning the faction title last season, and now they're kind of considered, along with Quirky Mercs, or at least Quirky Mercs are out of it this time, as having the bottom of the barrel, and it sucks for them. And a lot of people were already questioning most of his picks, except the Laura Kelly seemed to have turned out fine, but everything else outside of that has gone the way, it's just not going over well. But Shazam is basically getting the grudge match, so we're getting Shazam versus Odd Couple 3 once again for the second time for the title. And it seems maybe if things turn out like it kind of did the last one, Shazam will have it, because unless somehow they get screwed over by the round 3 questions this time around, like they did the last time. But at this point, I'm not even sure about it. I think they'll still have a shot. They might still have a shot, but I'm not sure if Odd Couple needs to play like they're champions and not like whatever the heck happened at Spectacular. If they think they have or at least in the sense of how they were able to become so damn lucky to have beaten the Shire Wolves in the first place, is what they need to have for gameplay going up against Shazam. Heck, Shazam versus Shire Wolves would have been an interesting match too if that ever were a what if match. I tell you what. Very interesting what if, especially given the whole history with them and critically acclaimed. Bibbs has with Shire Wolves, and especially critically acclaimed, all that. That would have been interesting. I'd love to see that. Hopefully, and luckily things are going well, and which is ironic given what had come off of the singles match Bibiani and Oyama had, and they were literally, once again, even in this case, the two stronger players in this team's match, as they were the two strongest of their own teams. Bibbs just managed to be one heck of a good back and forth between them two for their matchup. But anyways, overall, I enjoyed all these matches. Now we know it's the Alex Damon, the Battlefield match we're going to be getting at the end of the month, this coming month of April is, or this current month that is now April, is going to be insanely good. Which should be yeah, luckily I'm not having to worry about, because I was hopefully I was hoping to do this, by the way, before I did a watch along with the Gucciverse on the, because they are more active in doing good watch alongs, and there's not as many people to talk over each other while the match is going on. There was just one point where I couldn't with Action Army in that regard. Other than that, I love playing games with them. They're awesome. I probably shouldn't. You know, I'm going to try to edit it out, but I don't know if I'll have time. We'll see what happens. At least I'm going to learn my lesson, because of some other thing I'm not even going to say, and I might save it for another video. I'm going to have to cut that and try to edit that out later once I'm done figuring out the other stuff. So, anyways, guys, that's it for what the talks of these matches. I believe I'm trying to figure out what other matches are supposed to be coming up this week. I forgot what they were, and I feel awful. And whatever those matches are, it'll be something. What did you guys think of so far the matches thus far, while I'm trying to look up and see what they are here? And the matches, I believe, that should be happening, I think, yeah, it's not saying anything on the matches, I think, that are supposed to come up this week. Well, yeah, whatever they are, check them out. Whatever it is. Well, let's hope they're just as good as what we've been getting, especially with the other things that have been happening. I'm just hoping it'll all still be good, and I think we have a throwdown this week, and I forgot what it was. I'll probably remember it by the time I get a chance to record the next one, which should be coming up on Friday, so that's why I'm doing it late right now. What did you guys think of this week's first ever Battlefield pay-per-view? This past week's first ever Battlefield pay-per-view. What did you think of the other matches we had this week, including the number of contenderships and that awesome rookie single match? Leave a comment below, let me know. If you like this video, rock that like button with thrust if you must. As always, guys, keep it random. Keep it real. Keep it rocking. Also, Facebook page and stereo, my favorite Facebook page, link in the description, and like and follow me there. You can probably follow me through stereo. Eventually, I'll do something there. And yeah, as always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. If you smell what the movie trivia Schmoedown rocks, let's give it entertainment, so on and so forth. And the dungeon, baby, is cooking. Ooh, yeah. Dig it. Schmoedown. Ooh, yeah. Snap into the Schmoedown. Ooh, yeah. Dig it. Brother.